Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm the nerd with the mouth, David.
Alliance Assemble.
Assemble.
Volume 272, and it's been a bit, and as I always say when I take these little breaks at this point, it's good to be back. So hey, and I got that intro down for being 2 weeks off, 2 weeks removed. Like getting on a bike, everything just comes back into memory. So, but yeah, happy to be back. Definitely want to thank Mr. Hines for subbing in for me when I was on vacation a couple weeks ago. But it was the vacation was good. Mexico was fun. Definitely love the people watching and people who think that they're still in college. Yeah, I mean, grown people. You're just like, man, it's kind of like the person who goes away for the first time ever into college at this point. They're reliving, they're soaking it all up and paying for it the next day. Not me. Sorry, I'm responsible.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of that when I was in Mexico not too long ago, so I completely understand that one. It is fun to people watch and fun to go, glad that's not me.
Yes, thank you, Fifth Jack. Thanks, buddy. But yeah, we took last week off just because Marvel had the Marvel Zombies trailer. Nothing else dropped. So David and I was like, you know what? We can punt that to next week. Maybe Marvel will give us something good. And you know what? For the first time in a while, Marvel said, sorry, we got nothing for you guys this week at this point. So we are not going to go dark for 2 weeks in a row. We're not going to do that to you. So David and I came up with a fun topic that I'll take up, after we break down the trailer for Marvel Zombies. But yeah, tell me how has been your last couple of weeks?
Last couple weeks have been pretty all right. Like I said, I took this week off of work to focus on doing some rehab for my shoulder and just getting myself physically and mentally back to where I need to be, which has been much needed. So starting next week, I'm back into the routine of things. But yeah, this week was a much needed time to recalibrate myself both physically and mentally.
Oh, good. Totally understand that breaks are good for the mental health at this point. But yeah, getting back from vacation, always a little rough in the sense of playing some catch up, but got that catch up done. And then this week has been a full moon, literally and figuratively. So not the bottom hasn't fallen out of the ship or anything like that, but it's just like things that, shouldn't like just more blew up a little bit more than usual. Everything's bad. Everyone's good. Everything's fine. It's just little things here or there. It's just like, ugh, can't wait for this week to begin. I'm not one to wish my life away, but it's one of those things like, this week gave me a little more challenges than I was wanting. But hey, I'm still standing. Everything's still going good. I'm feeling, besides this minor headache right now, it's just, I'm feeling good. Happy to be back here, like I said. So, yeah. But yeah, so let us before we get into the show proper, as always, we got to go give all the network plugs. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 6 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at JUA Pod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. Our dollar tier is our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows. Now, our back catalog for Marvel Alliance has We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch, where we watched all the movies in the Infinity Saga in chronological order, gave our takes on it, and then we did Tales from the House of X, which we looked at our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. And now we are getting closer and closer. In the next few weeks, we will conclude officially the Baxter broadcast, the Fantastic Four retro film reviews. We did the Fantastic Four, the unreleased 1994 film produced by Roger Corman, the Fantastic Four for 2005, the Fantastic Four Rise of Silver Surfer. All of those have dropped. And then coming September 29th, Fantastic Four, aka Fan Four Stick, from 2015. So patrons, you're still gonna wait a couple more weeks for that, but trust me, it will be worth the wait. A lot of fun laughs, as we said, were had by all, including the suffering that I had to go through and David had to re-endure for you, the fans and listeners. So
We do it for you, the people.
we do it for you, the people. And DC Alliance has got their DC films through the years. Joe's got his multiverse minutes. Disney dies on the 1st and 15th of the month. He goes and breaks down another movie from the Disney animated catalog in chronological order, giving all his takes and all the behind the scenes information of how those films are dropped. So give it a couple of days and there'll be a new one in your feeds. And he is getting ready to, in the next couple of weeks, do his infamous 30 plus days of Halloween, where every single day he'll give a short Patreon drop about a Halloween horror suspense movie that is it. I'm always very curious to see what Joe has in store for those, because even if I haven't watched it, I always enjoy hearing his quick takes on it. So he literally does it for you, the people. Yeah. So lots of back catalog on there, but if you're not a patron and are interested, go to www.patreon.com/GUA network so you can get all that lovely content. And again, we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. And if you can't join us on Patreon, totally understand. But if you can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, we greatly appreciate it. And last, but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for omnibus hardcover collected edition ease. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. Couple more weeks to lock in those final order cutoffs for pre-orders to get those deep discounts at panel bound comics. Man, I knew it was going to be today. So panel bound comics. Sorry, so I'm still getting used to it. So yes, Organic Price Books is now panel bound comics. Go to panelboundcomics.com to look at those lovely pre-orders. We got Age of Krakoa, Dawn of X, Omnibus Volume 2, Spider-Man Brand New Day, Omnibus Volume 3. That concludes that infamous story arc of the relaunch of the character for a new generation, as we'll call it. You know, David's favorite story, right? Brand New Day.
Oh, can't get enough.
Can't get enough. Lots of epic collections. We've got Avengers No Surrender in omnibus format. Amazing Spider-Man by Zeb Wells. We'll just leave that as a lie. X-Men Road to Onslaught. A lot of great stuff. And you can use two codes we got. We got Marvel GUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order, or use the code MGUASIT for 5% off when you order 4 or more books together. We want to thank Panel Bound Comics for being our sponsor. And again, use those codes. It'll let them know you're a listener. So, all right. So that is done. I was wondering what I was going to mess up with tonight with stuff we've done before. But hey, still getting used to it.
It's all about getting back into the swing of things.
It is. So, all right. So, last week, we got word that Marvel Zombies would be putting out their first and possibly only trailer for the miniseries. Right now, it is scheduled to just be a 4-episode miniseries, looking back at the characters that were introduced in the What If season 1. And seeing exactly what's going on that particular world where the zombies have taken over at this point. And as you see, before we even start it, at that point, the following preview is going to be rated M for mature, or TVMA, or whatever they're calling it at this point. So, I when this was announced, I was very excited just because I'm a big fan of the initial couple of runs of Marvel Zombies. And then the What If episode premiered of it, and I think it did a fantastic job capturing what those initial couple of miniseries in the comics of Marvel Zombies was about. I mean, what did you think when, about the What If episodes and when this was announced?
Yeah, I thought the What If episode alone, affectionately titled What If Zombies, was a pretty good introduction. They toned down from the comics a lot And so when they announced this, and it seemed like okay, they're going to get a little bit deeper into the lore. And now seeing this trailer, it looks like they're leaning all the way into it. No blue blood or anything else to tone it down. That they're going straight for it.
Which is again a testament to what Marvel's kind of understanding that they can do and diversify kind of their audience background and not just seem like the tongue-in-cheek comedy, like you said, the blue blood instead of the red blood and everything like that. But I think they still capture the heart of the Marvel Zombies universe in the episode. But yeah, this one they're kind of leaning into exactly what's going on. So as always, we will volume boot down if you're watching this, and it'll be at a smaller panel. But let's check this out. So the following is rated as we have zombie in the background, TVMA. So that I think Disney and Marvel Studios were very smart to just put that up front, saying, "Hey, we heard you, we know you want this, so now we're gonna basically say, guess what? We've got our first rated R movie out with Deadpool and Wolverine. Now we're gonna do our first kind of mature rated series on Disney Plus in animated format, because we had Daredevil, that was TVMA. So, well, there we go, boom, blood everywhere. He got shot in the head with an arrow zombie. Who could that possibly be?
So, again, you got arrow to the head. We're starting out good. You got the blood splatter on the wording right there. They're kicking off that, hey, we're going all in on this, and yeah, we get some lovely Hawkeye action.
Mm-hmm. We got some zombies coming out. All right, so this is where we kind of see probably our reintroduction to Katie and Shang-Chi, because this looks to be the zombie apocalypse that has come to San Francisco. And then we get, who is that? Who is that?
An amazing looking Okoye with the glowing red eyes, and yeah, they're just menacing.
Yep. So again, they're definitely capturing the feel of all kind of zombie tropes when the zombies finally take over. Let's see. So, who could that have been that just got poked right through, basically fisted right through?
And again, this is we're not holding back on anything. This entire shot, like it even shocked me to the point when I saw this, I was like, oh, we are legitimately going this far. We've got a whole hand in chest here. Like we're going
blood and all, red, no blue. So we see Okoye here that looks to be the Abomination. I'm not sure on these two individuals though.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to figure out. I couldn't tell if the person on the left, if there is a quiver on the back, if maybe that could be a zombified Clint.
So even though he might have shot the person, he might have gotten turned at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we got our infamous Captain America, who we did get introduced to in the first What Ifs episode in not the first What If episode, the Marvel Zombies episode, because we had a very significant scene fighting Bucky, I believe. And boom, there we go. There's the Abomination coming at it. And there you go. There we get our first look at the zombified Hawkeye. And that's the thing that's interesting with this. You know, we've got a group of kind of like mob zombies, but then the superheroes still retain their abilities. They don't just become a mindless kind of brains.
Yeah, they still have, and it's interesting from what we would think that we know of zombies just from movies and things like that. They still have the faculties and wherewithal to use their powers and how to use their various powers.
Yeah. And again, they're capturing this kind of they're capturing the fear, the suspense. So we get another look at zombie Captain America, and we get more looks at zombies looking forward, and they're coming for us. So there we go. We get Yelena Belova, voiced by Florence Pugh herself, reprising her role as Yelena. so we know she's on the team. We got Shang-Chi. Look
now,
at
this
that.
was interesting to me. Both him and Katie using the 10 rings.
Yep, that's new. So I hope we do hear exactly how that came about. And she's wielding it pretty good.
Yeah, this isn't just, hey, hold this bracelet for protection.
Yeah, she's standing her own, and they ain't got no fear. You don't have time for that in the zombie apocalypse. This was a cool shot that I don't think we expected. So right here, we've got a few. So who do we got here? We got Red Guardian. We got Yelena. That is that Miss Marvel?
That looks like Miss Marvel.
Yep, it's Miss Marvel. The red the red around her red scarf around her neck, and right there we get our first look at Blades, not versed by Marshala Ali. I can't remember who they said he's being voiced by in this series.
Let me look it up real quick. But yeah, we get a Blade Moon Knight variant.
Yep,
so
Blade
that-
Moon Knight. Yep. Wide eyes, you know, are we team wide eyes on this one? I don't know, but he calls out who they're staring at, and this is Namor. Ah. So we get our, you know.
So Todd Williams does
Todd
Blade
Williams,
Knight
that's
in
it.
this.
Gotcha. Now, who is that? Some rando civilian?
Yeah, I didn't recognize this person, so I wasn't quite sure.
Okay. Look at that. My God. Well, she didn't last too long. Woo! Look at that. Just like I'm just gonna freeze right there. Oh, look, my goodness.
Yeah, Namor looking just destroying.
And Kate Bishop saying, you know. I think that's all what we would say at that moment too.
Yeah, no other words.
So September 24th, we've known that date for a while. You know, more gross out stuff and zombies. Who will save us? And it looks like we basically, I mean, we've seen, excuse me, that scene with Thanos with the gauntlet. That's how that episode ended. So it sounds like Thanos is coming back. Zombies Thanos is coming back. And look, we've got Black Panther, T'Challa, we got Spider-Man, and I can't tell who the third one was. Could it have been, who is that? I'm gonna blow this up real quick. Oh, it's Peter Parker. Oh, no, it's
it's
looks Scott
like
Lang.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's Scott Lang in the head. The head with the strangest cape, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, so we got Peter doing some. Look at that! Come on, Spider-Man using webs to take down zombies. Look at that. That's cool. That is very cool. We got Thor coming down. Then we got another look at Scarlet Witch, who is supposed to play a very significant role in this series. We have no confirmation. You know, again, is she going to speak or is she just going to go grunts and moans like every zombie? So this is the first appearance we've seen not only of Shang-Chi in many years, Scarlet Witch in many years. There's Blade again, Blade Moon Knight. We get zombified versions of Ant-Man and the Wasp.
One that gets completely just diced in half.
Yep. And look, and then we got Moon Knight Blade going toe-to-toe with Ghost. God, what a cool scene. And they definitely capture that Wesley Snipes, you know, the blade from the first Blade and everything like that. That's a perfect kind of capturing of what the power of Blade could do. And who knows? Well, we've already seen the end of Ghost with this. And in half. There we go. And, you know, chop it to bits. Because you can't just trust it. That's how you do it then. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Miss Marvel, Kamala, doesn't seem to be phased too much.
No. She is, if anything, sitting there like, whoa, I'm impressed.
Yeah. So let's see this voice cast here. So we've got Elizabeth Olsen. So sounds like we're going to get some speaking of Scarlet Witch again. Paul Rudd. Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Tessa Thompson, Simu Liu, Aquafina, Haley Steinfeld, Wyatt Russell, Randall Park, Iman Vellani, and Dominique Thorne. So it looks like we got Ironheart in here. There's Iman Vellani, we already know. Randall Park. So I think one of those people might have been Randall Park too, that went by. Tessa Thompson, I don't remember seeing, and it might have been blink and you miss it in this trailer. But I think every single one of them we saw, though. But yeah,
I don't remember seeing Valkyrie unless I missed it in one of the big scenes, maybe her flying on a horse or something. But yeah.
But yeah, see, All in the Game said Shang-Chi and his world not having made a live-action appearance since 21 movie is a travesty that wouldn't have happened in the MCU's first 3 phases. No, I think David and I are both in full agreement. That's a misstep at that point. I've said the other biggest misstep is not having an Avengers film until now. I think, and I don't think the reason necessarily is because it quote unquote underperformed. It performed very well for when it released, and I think people want to see this character. And heck, the only other time we've seen, Shang-Chi is What If,
Yeah.
So, hopefully they rectify that. I really enjoyed the movie. It was, it came out at a time to, in that first phase post Endgame, after Black Widow. I still really remember seeing that in the theaters. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a disappointment that we're waiting this long to finally see the return of Shang-Chi in live action in Doomsday. So, but yeah, so that's Marvel Zombies. September 24th, they are releasing all 4 episodes, similar to what they did with Eyes of Wakanda. So, is that a Wednesday, David? I think that's a Wednesday.
24th, I believe so. Yep, that is a Wednesday.
All right. So, usually those are about, Eyes of Wakanda kind of range between at least 30 minutes to 40 minutes each episode. David and I will have to be kind of a game time decision exactly if we're going to be ready to go live on Thursday, or we might have to pull maybe a Friday night. We'll have to talk with our Mr. Snell and DC Alliance guys, making sure they're okay. I think that might be a game time decision just to make sure that we have time, because we want to produce a good show. But if one or both of us needs time to watch, again, 4 episodes, if it basically amounts to 2 hours and it's during the week, that's it could be a lot for either one of us to do and sneak in. Plus, we want to get a chance to kind of break down, digest it, and not just do a live kind of thing. So stay tuned for that. It will be that week, though. It'll either be at our normal time, or we may have to do it a little bit later that week, just because of like I said, we want to put out a good show. So, but I'm excited about it. I think it'll be good, and it'll be interesting. So, All in the Game asking, so Wonder Man. Last show of the year, yes, that is still slated to be released sometime in December, I believe. That would be, it may end up taking what became the What If spot for the last couple of years. No official release date, and no official idea if it's going to be weekly releases, or are they just going to dump it and I mean that not necessarily with disrespect, but they basically dumped all the episodes of Echo when it came out. I have a very nagging suspicion they may do the same thing and dump all the episodes of Wonder Man at that point.
Yeah.
So
I could very much see that being the direction for that.
Yeah. So, but all right. So David, let's take our first ad break before we get into the other part of our show topic tonight. So as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They can be a bit loud, so give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back. So again, like we said, that was the only main Marvel news that has been here for the last couple of weeks. And there's been little rumors here or there, but nothing that we could really sink our teeth on. As always, we do have a post-credits discussion, so stay tuned for that. But every once in a while, we do an evergreen topic of looking at some things that just kind of interest us about Marvel. I am disappointed that we may have to revisit what you did with Travis Hines over the summer because I think you guys ranked your favorite what was it? Not episodes, but favorite projects from the last two phases.
Yes.
So I may have to do something like that to let y'all know what my ones are. But tonight, we are going to be discussing our top 5 Marvel video games. David's a gamer. I'm a gamer. In previous lives, I really was a hardcore gamer, and then job, kids, life happens, and I'm still a gamer, but it's mostly relegated to the weekends and definitely not online. Definitely not online. Sorry, I just, even though you and Brent said, hey, you should jump on the sticks and play us, I said, yeah, but the thing is, I also don't play late at night anymore either. So
Yeah, we are sometimes late night gamers. I mean, there is a more than zero chance that once I get off of here, I may be joining him on getting some stress relief with the online play. So that does happen where there are times where we're just like, man, we need to go to bed.
well, I maybe one time you'll coax me into it. I know you guys are COD players, and I do have it on my Game Pass, and I can either hop on my Steam Deck and everything like that, and game a little more mobile. But all right, but yes, we're gonna talk about our top 5 Marvel video games. Now, David, I'm gonna ask you this because I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't rank mine because I did two things. One, I knew there was a possibility that you and I may have some similarities. And so I also put a bunch of games on there that I really liked, but also to diversify our lists. So that way, if one of us picks something the other one has, we could at least still discuss it, saying, oh, yep, that's on my list, but still have a kind of top 5 list that are respective to our own. Are you good with just kind of listing your top 5 without necessarily a ranking?
Yeah, mine are not in a solid order. They are in a very loose order. I also have 2 honorable mentions. One is mine, and one comes from Mr. Travis Hines, who said that I need to mention this
Gotcha.
game.
All in the game. I'm gonna star your question right now, and probably in between this, David's gonna put it in our show notes so we can answer your question during the listener feedback section. So stay tuned. Stay tuned at this point. All right, so I'm always a gracious friend and co-host, so I am going to let you go with the first pick of which one of what's on your list of top 5. Because
Okay.
we'll hold the honorable mentions until the end, just in case you need to pull a trigger and use it in your top 5.
So, first one I am going to go with is Marvel's Ultimate Alliance.
It's
It
on my list too. Good
it
choice.
it took what X-Men Legends did and made it so much better. And I remember sitting there, the cinematics, having everyone come together, and then also having the friends come over and to be able to pick up a controller and play co-op with me. Like, that was just it for me. Like, so much greatness with that.
Yeah, this was on my list, like you said, after what X-Men Legends 2. It set up a stinger setup as a 3rd chapter in the excellent RPG series. It goes into when Doctor Doom attacks S.H.I.E.L.D., Helicarrier announces to the world that he has gathered a new Masters of Evil. Nick Fury assembles a team of Ultimate Alliance players powered from every corner of the universe, even the X-Men. I mean, that's the basic premise. And what if you've never played Ultimate Alliance? It's very simple. It's very easy, top down, button mashing kind of game. But you get the really cool power sets of all these characters, and you get unique combos later on with Ultimate Alliance 2 and 3. Ups the ante. I have not made it through all of Ultimate Alliance 3, but I just love the idea that you get to assemble a team of all the different conglomerations, because you can have Mr. Fantastic, you could have Blade, you could have Captain Marvel, like all on one team. And then if you get later on in the series where you get these legendary combos of people that like Colossus and Wolverine being on the team do the fastball special. And it just represents a great history. And, you're trying to take down, of all people, Doctor Doom. You go to really great locations, and they just kept on building on this idea of, just simple fun. You live out your comic book dreams at that point. So, yeah, Ultimate Alliance is still held a place near and dear to my heart. I have Ultimate Alliance 3 on my Switch. I've enjoyed what I have played of it, but as I said, my backlog keeps on getting longer and longer. I will go back to revisiting, but man, like you said, X-Men Legends walked so that Ultimate Legends could run.
Yeah. I played the mess out of 1 and 2. I have admittedly never played 3, and it is for the dumbest reason, and that is at the time that it came out, I was a new Switch user, and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait till this goes on sale. Fast forward 8-9 years, Switch games never go on sale, people. So
No, some go on sale, not always the ones that you want to go on sale. The sale's usually like $10 off. So
yes, so it is not like the days of old where you can wait a year or two and then get it for the 1999 Game of the Year edition or whatnot. Yeah, no, they are still $50. So that is the only reason why, and I keep telling myself I am going to play it, and I never got around to it. Fifth of Jack, and he says you build your own squads. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, but you can decide the bonuses that you get.
Yep.
So 1 had it set up to where if you played with the teams a lot, then you got bonuses. 2, you actually got to pick the bonuses and really structure your team around, okay, this person works well with this person. If I pair this person with this person, I get this extra combo and things like that. So yeah, it was super fun. And me being the side quest person I am, of course, I'm going around, I'm stopping all the time to get every extra character, every extra little bit of this and that. I remember getting Blade out of like a vending machine at one point. It was just...
I remember rocking out with Ghost Rider, man. Ghost Rider was definitely my ride or die a lot of times just because of his Hellfire chain and everything like that. Man, I played the mess out of that. So it looks like we're inspiring a Fifth of Jack. He might be playing it tonight.
It's good because it is such a great game, and it's one of the first things that when we came up with this list, I was like, "Ooh, I get to talk about Marvel's Ultimate Alliance again."
No, that's a great choice. It definitely was on my list. So, all right, like I said, I've got a lot of different options on here. Let me go with a game from 2005, a game that some people forget. A game that definitely was very controversial, still is to this day, but I enjoyed the heck out of it. It's written by one of my... the story is credited to who I consider to be the ultimate... one of the... if not the writer of this character. That would be Mr. Garth Ennis, who penned the story for The Punisher from 2005. He revived the series under the dissolved Marvel Max label. And it's both the game clearly inspired on the character as it shares some of the dark violent, but also the pseudo sequel to the 2004 film that starred Thomas Jane. It does recount the events of how he, from being conned as a police detective, and talks about the family. You get to relive it in a different way, but at its core, it is a third-person shooter that, while a little bit dated by modern standards, it doesn't feature an over-the-shoulder aiming system as Resident Evil came around this month before, nor can you take any meaningful cover. However, it's still nonetheless satisfying to pick up a large arsenal of weapons, everything from dual-wielded hand cannons, rocket launcher, flamethrowers, and take to the streets and dispense justice the only way you know how. I think what made this game even more gruesome were the quote-unquote mini games of basically torturing and getting necessarily information out of the people. That's what made the game very controversial in the sense of like what you could do in very gruesome points. I mean, they did not pull any punches with this. In an interview actually with Polygon in 2014 about the violence in the video game, it was revealed that The Punisher was a mild success, selling over 1 million units, and a sequel was teased in a post-credit scene. Perhaps the reason why Volition didn't get to do the sequel is that it exhausted all their creativity with the torture scenes in the first game. It is just, if you're a Punisher fan, this is the game for you at this point. It was just, man, it captured everything I wanted in a Punisher game to be. Like I'm a big fan of like the side scroller Punisher game, and I love that I have it finally on my Switch with Marvel fighting that collection. But man, did you play this game?
I did play this game, and I will say this, and it's not a sentence that I ever thought I would say. I have very fond memories of putting somebody in a wood chipper.
You know, you watch a lot of Fargo then.
So yeah, no, it was a great game. It was something that I borrowed from a buddy of mine, and I was still living at home at the time. I was actually home from college at this point, and I remember playing it, but having to like hide the fact that I was playing it, because if my grandmother had known that I was playing it, I would have been down on the church pew for the next month and a half nonstop. So I remember having to hide the fact that I was playing it, but it was everything. And I used, up until we got John Bernthal's version of the Punisher, Thomas Jane's version of the Punisher was my absolute favorite. Now there is a web short that he also made that kind of continues that lore of that version of the Punisher, but man, I remember loving that movie and then having this as a pseudo sequel and continuation and things like that. It was fun and I loved it, and it was just gory for no reason, and it was just over the top fun.
Yeah, it's I see now it's giving me nostalgia. I said I don't know if I can even find it on Xbox Game Pass or anything like that. I have to, maybe that's a weekend task for me to kind of go and find at this point. But yeah, so that's on my list at this point. So what you got next?
Okay, next up, I am going to go with Spider-Man: Web of Shadows.
Oh, okay, not on my list, but I can see why. I can guess why. But tell us about it for those that have never played it.
So, Spider-Man: Web of Shadows is a very interesting story that takes place. So you kind of, and you get to play not just as Spider-Man, but also you get to play as him taking over by Venom and things like that. So it was, how can I best describe it? Because it was my first real kind of dark Spider-Man game. It revolves around the symbiotes that are invading, threatening Manhattan. Spider-Man has to stop it. He has several different people he meets. So you get your Wolverine. There's Black Cats in the game. And it has, if you've ever played the Ultimate Spider-Man game on PS3 and things like that, it's kind of got that open world feel for it. From the moment that they had the commercial where he's doing the slow walk and you see the symbiotes like jumping around him, and you can tell like he's all disheveled and trying to figure things out, and he's flipping back between him and the symbiote version of him. And then cut to the game itself again, you have Luke Cage in there, Moon Knight, Wolverine, Black Cat, you fight Vulture, Rhino, Electro. Like there's, it was just a fun game for and I played it on the PS2, and I remember just going on and on and on and on with this game.
Yeah, I do remember. I don't know if I ever. I did remember finishing it. It was an interesting concept for what they were doing, but like you said, just different version of Spider-Man. You know.
Yeah, and it had the morality system. So
Yes.
if you didn't save people or if you did certain things in fights, that would affect the plot line that you got later on.
Which is a very cool idea for, especially for regarding a Spider-Man game. So
Yeah, you play too much as Spider-Man with the symbiote, then you're going to get a different ending, or if you play too much on this way or that way. So it gave it some replayability. And again, this was me in my Spider-Man era, just playing it over and over again, trying to get those different endings, those different versions, just seeing where the story took me.
yeah, okay, good choice. So I'm going to go with my next choice, nostalgia. Now, a lot of my choices on here will be very nostalgia at that point. I could go very modern at that point. I do have some modern picks and maybe some few surprising ones, but I'm going to go deep nostalgia because this is where this was the beginning of my love of video games and Marvel in particular with this one. So, a little publisher known as Konami put out a game called X-Men in 1992, and I'm telling you what, if you were an arcade lover, man, X-Men, this game was like Konami putting out, it was the X-Men, commonly known as X-Men, the arcade game. You got to play as either Cyclops, Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, and then we got Wolverine in his brown and tan, Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Dazzler to stop Magneto as he commandeers an army of Sentinels, and you're battling everyone from Pyro to Juggernaut. And what made it such a desirable experience is when you really boil it down to the base elements of what this game is. It's just another beat 'em up, and when there's just another beat 'em up. Well, for one, it was Konami beat 'em up. So whether it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Simpsons, Batman, Konami just knew how to make those games really fun as fun side scrollers. The act of punching an enemy made it so great to feel the sum of all parts. Tight controls always felt satisfying, and combine that with characters with mutant powers like Cyclops' optic blast, Colossus' roaring energy spark, and Nightcrawler can teleport and zip around the screen of the game. It also didn't hurt. X-Men was it's still today a very beautiful game. It is gorgeous, if you get a chance to ever play it. 6 cast members are vibrant in the colorful trademark outfits. You get enemies like the immovable Blob, Juggernaut, Magneto himself. But what makes it a pleasure returning it to this is, I strongly feel that Turtles in Time, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, has been butchered in ports, extras, and HD re-releases. And because the music has never quite been as magical as the SNES game, but X-Men is another game I just can't imagine playing without hearing the repeated X-Men to a beat. Of course, no one can forget the superbly acted lines like "Welcome to die" and "Nothing moves the Blob." At the time, I didn't realize what those lines meant and where, but because I was amazed that the game could talk, it was just and pumping quarter after quarter after quarter in those games. I still adore that game. I still think it holds up.
It does still hold up. There is a place here near me. There's actually 2 places that do this, but there's one super close to me where you pay a small fee. It's $10 a person, and you can play all the arcade games you want.
Nice.
And that's one of the arcade games that they have. They have that and Ninja Turtles, but I prefer this because you had the wider cabinet on the arcade game, so all 6 could really get in there with the wider screen. And yes, I still to this day laugh at when Magneto comes on. Again, the bad translation is "I am Magneto, master of magnet."
Yep, master of magnet. Yep. Magnet.
So, yes, that was an amazing game, and yeah, I remember being a kid. There was a place called Aladdin Arcade, and I would go there all the time with my brother. It was actually inside Walmart, so whenever our grandmother or our aunt, whoever took us there, was doing her thing, we would be off in the arcade with our little bit of quarters, running out very quickly because we were not that good.
Yeah. So, but yep, that's my second pick. So you start us off with your third.
All right, so keeping with arcade, and this is both arcade and home, I'm going to go with Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Oh, you're going 2. Okay. All right.
Yes.
I did not see that one coming.
Okay, so this is why I'm going 2. A lot of people would say 3 is better. Some people it did have tighter controls. It was a lot more fluid. But man, the amount of time I spent just nostalgia-wise on Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and filling the screen with an optic blast and just going
optic blast,
over
optic
and
blast.
over and over again. I spent so much time on Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that yes, again, 3 defined it, made it much better, but 2 has that just initial nostalgia for me.
I mean, again, I don't. You're. I can understand why. I am one of the people that still says 3 is the definitive crossover of the fighting games. Um, it's you got when they're merged in the world that's threatened by Galactus. You select your 3 characters to duke it out with the rivals. You added 12 new playable characters, 6 of which from the Marvel Universe. Each of I will say this: each of Capcom's Marvel fighting games has its own sense of charm. Like you said, 2 has it builds off of what the first one did, and the third one is an improvement over the base game in a major way, while filling out the roster. The gameplay also still remains fast paced. Um, it's still. I don't hear too often, and that's interesting that you choose that. It's not because I dislike it and say it's a crap game. It's not, but I do like where everything builds on each other, and it's always tough with fighting games, in my opinion, because outside of, and this is where I got to a point with football games too. It's just like, well, on top of just making new players and changing the stats and things like that, like, not much there, so you have to do something different, and that's why the Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom series found a way to do it. But I think one of the ones that have perfected it really well, and I really applaud them for making the step, is like the Mortal Kombat series of what they've done recent years, starting with I believe it was starting with X at that point, the 10th one, and doing that. So that kind of changed, in my opinion, kind of changed the genre of fighting games from just being simple beat 'em ups.
Yeah, adding story, adding the fun to that, having more than just the 1v1 really adds some depth to it. Like I said, I spent so much time on 2. I do love Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and I mean, having all the games is the whole reason for buying the collector's edition. Like when they came back out with that, was because again, all those games they were so fun. And so to have that ability, have that fun to just keep going on and on, yeah, it's fun. And but Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was the one that just had me pouring in all my time. Spider-Man swinging across for the kicks, everything else, yeah, I fell in love with it.
Yeah. No, good choice. So I'm gonna not do the fighting game. I'm gonna go with a Spider-Man game. You've got one. I'm gonna do another one. I've got a couple on here, which is interesting just because of you go down, and some of them might become my honorable mentions. And I think we're just gonna be out and say, like, both David and I love the Spider-Man 1 and 2 on PlayStation. And I think at this point we're just going to say we both love it, we both enjoy it. I've talked about it on this show. You've talked about it on this show, especially I remember how being a sweet dad as you are, the waking up for the second one, playing with your son early at that point. I think we can put that off to the side as saying, like, hey, that's on both our lists, but there's nothing more we can say that we already haven't said about those games in respective. So, but this is a Spider-Man game that I was on the top of my list for Spider-Man games of all time, until the PlayStation game came out, and that would be Ultimate Spider-Man.
Nice.
What I really enjoyed it. Before that, the Spider-Man game before that was Spider-Man 2, based on the movie. That was the pinnacle of Spider-Man games, in my opinion, until this game came out. One of the things I like about it is, like, it's not shackled by any kind of movie or anything. I think, like, it's written by Brian Michael Bendis, who was still writing Ultimate Spider-Man at that time. The idea of, I really loved the cell shading style of that. I'm a sucker for a good cell shaded game.
The comic book panels between, that was amazing.
Taking place sometime after the introduction of Venom in the Ultimate Universe, Eddie Brock returns to torment Peter. Though Venom was an almost overused character in a Spider-Man video game at time, appearing in some form or another, um, somehow the Ultimate Universe found out this version of Eddie Brock is in possession of a cloaked in an alien parasite. This version is power has little of understanding of it's actively consuming him. But despite being a game that is now approaching, I don't know how many years old, what I say, and I can't remember when it came out, like decades old at this point. Um, you get to play as both characters at different points, um, and you sadly the story missions are locked behind completing side missions in order to expand it. However, the rate at which you get back into the story is cut down considerably. Random street event crimes where you stop muggers or escort someone to the hospital don't have an accompanying dialogue or cutscenes, or just populate for some random. But I thought the story was great. It's not a perfect game, but the idea of the person who's writing the comic creating a unique story for that, and you get to play as both characters, both have their ways of wielding it and having the quippy dialogue, things like that. Like, it just was so refreshing, and I really enjoyed it. And it's just, as a Fifth of Jack game, it says legit a living comic book style. So, but yeah, I
Yeah.
very fond memories of Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, that was a fun game. The way that the quickness that Spider-Man played, the bouncing around, it was just, man, that was so much fun. And then again, at the time I was reading the Ultimate Spider-Man line of comics, so then to feel like, yes, this is the comic book in a living form, and then to have some aspects of that later adapted into the comic book, like, all right, so we are going to acknowledge that this thing exists and take these parts of it and do it in the, I think it was the War of the Symbiotes story that came later in there, and the mentions of Silver Sable and stuff like that. So it all tied together, and again, that was just great. No, that was a super fun one.
Yeah, it like I said, if you never played it, give it a shot. It's definitely a fun trip down memory lane if you're a fan of the Ultimate Universe. So, all right, I think we're on number 4.
All right, number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy. That story was just amazing. And I know for some people they had to get past the fact that this wasn't Chris Pratt and this wasn't, Dave Bautista and the people that they're used to. But man, there were some beats in that story that just really made you feel like having the flashbacks, the nostalgia to it. I mean, it really captured it not only with the music, the hairstyles, everything about it. The moments between Peter and his mom were heartbreaking. There was just so much to that story in that game that I was just like, I completely love this story. And then the gameplay itself was fun. It took me a minute to get over the fact that even though you had a 4-person team, you didn't play as the 4, but the game itself ended up making all of that work with the team up element still, and it was just fun. And again, like I said, it's an amazing story. One of the highlights when it comes to comic book video game stories, in my opinion.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy for me, I will fully admit, I never finished it. I got about halfway through it. The cinematic style, the dialogue with it, the graphics, the interesting ways of like how they come together at one point and have a pep talk, and the interplay with all the players. It was fun, and I think the only reason I stopped playing it was, I don't know, it for me, the story was great, but it felt very repetitive after a while. And at the time, I don't even know what else was there for me to play. I just kind of moved on from it, and I've never finished it. I don't think it's a bad game. I just think for me, it got a little too repetitive at points. And once they kind of certain gimmicks and things that made it unique kind of got old for me after a while. It didn't bring much new to the table. I just never returned to it.
Yeah, and
So
I can see that.
I'm not a fan of
The
the Star Lord kind of look of it. I think that's the most jarring thing for me that I wasn't necessarily a fan of. I wasn't saying it had to look like Chris Pratt, but that it even from the
more
comics, it was a big departure from what even the comics looks like.
more jarring than the Avengers, though.
Oh, that will not be appearing on any one of our lists. Such high hopes for the game and went down like a wet fart.
Oh, it's so bad, so bad.
Had high hopes, so many high hopes. you you had it, and then you just
It was right there, right there. Easy home
You
run.
had one job. I mean, God love it. Like Brent and I and Travis Nell would even get on and play it, and after a while, when we say, I just feel like I'm just grinding things. Yeah, no, we're not talking about games we dislike at this point.
Yeah.
Again, I don't dislike Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just not my tempo after a while. So, but I understand why it's on. I could definitely see why for many people it's a very underrated game. It came out at a time that somehow critics loved it, people who played it loved it. It never got the sales it deserved at that point. I think it's just kind of anytime it kind of pops up on a sale, I see all these people say, if you haven't played this, you got to. So, but all right. So my next one might call it Kitty, but these games always seem to bring it. And next year, I think they're going to be entering in a whole new lexicon by the announcement they've recently had. That would be TT Games Lego Marvel Superheroes 1 and 2.
I still play one of those. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It is still on my PlayStation, and it's one of the things that is downloaded, and it is my quick. I just need an escape game. Like, I'm tired of the God of Wars. I'm tired of wrestling. I need something to just zone out for a minute, and that's it.
Yeah, it's there. I mean, again, both of these games, like the first one establishes it, the second one kind of pluses it and expands the roster. I mean, just like every single possible character in the Marvel universe, hero, villain, A to D list, like they are there. But more of this love. I mean, TT Games does their homework. I mean, their whole Lego series has just been. I mean, name it, they've done it. Next year, they're putting out. Is it still TT Games or just straight up Warner Brothers with the Lego?
I think it's now just Warner Brothers.
Okay,
games.
so it's just Warner Brothers, but TT Games deserves all the credit in the world for making this. But the love for this isn't limited to the characters, but to the locations you visit as well. In the 15 mission campaign in the first one, you'll visit Stark Tower, Baxter Building, Doctor Doom's home country Latveria, the X Mansion, and even Realm of Eternal Asgard. Upon completion of the story, even more missions are unlocked as you scour New York for gold bricks. Think the Lego game version of the Power Stars from the 3D Mario games, where you can just take apart in the red brick missions and attain cheats with the Merc, with the mouth, Deadpool himself. You'll visit even more famous locations. You know, flying was always a little rough. I don't think they really ever perfected it. It was always kind of frustrating at points for me. But the attention to the detail of the characters, locations, the story, it's simple. Yes, it's kind of kiddie. You know, it's kind of like that thing I see on TikTok. Girls don't respect it. I like it. I don't care if it makes me look weird. I like it. And I like what I like at that point. So, and this is just fun. It's just silly fun. And like you said, it's pure just, Clay's going to love this thing because he loves when we say, we're going to turn off my brain and just play. I'm going to turn off my brain and just play this Lego game because it brings me to a point where I'm playing with my Lego toys and having some fun missions with the Avengers and every single Marvel character, good or bad.
Yeah, and as someone who absolutely loves Lego, literally I have a set that I just finished building yesterday, and as I was telling you earlier, I got another Lego set today. It is the ship from One Piece, and it is going to take me a very long time to put together, and I'm happy with that. I have a shelf back around the corner that is filled with Legos. There's more Legos over here. So any chance I get to just have fun and zone out with some Legos, I'm all for it.
Yep. All right. So Your number 5. The conclusion of this.
The
Before
con-
honorable mention, I will have one.
the conclusion of this is a game that is based off a movie and is 10,000 times better than the movie, and that would be X-Men Origins Wolverine, the game.
Okay, I was considering this, but man, I barely remember this, but yeah, I knew you're right. That is an appropriate thing. The game is way better than the movie.
It expanded the story so much better. I mean, you got all these different versions of Logan, and then one of the coolest parts was the healing factor. As you went along in the game, you're constantly getting berated by stuff. You got shot by a helicopter, your clothes would tear, and then slowly over time, as you're running through the jungle, you would watch your body just start to heal back. And that was the coolest thing to me, was that I could go through all this. And again, I am a side quest and unlockable type person, so trying to find everything, unlock every suit for Wolverine, things like that, unlocking the brown and yellow and things like that, like that's who I love doing that stuff. So having again all these different options for Logan and trying to unlock all this, that was a great one for me.
Yeah, it's you're right. Just it's interesting where a movie is just bad and not great. A game can somehow find a way to elevate the character to a new way. I mean, I'm still not fully convinced we're going to get that Wolverine game that they keep teasing us with the same darn image of him at the bar and things like that. I don't know. Maybe one day. Wolverine will come back to us in that way. But it would be great having a proper Wolverine game because some of the leaked game footage was intriguing. Fifth of Jack Gaming says agree. Wolverine Origins game was by far better than the movie. It was a fun game. I can't wait for the new one to come out. Hey, hopefully it comes out. I don't know. I still until they do something more than a cinematic trailer, I'm not convinced anymore with Sony with this stuff.
Yeah, no, I give no faith until I see that it has gone gold and copies are being pressed, and then I will believe it.
Yep. So, but yeah, not a bad choice. All right, my last one is also a little nostalgia. I still remember picking this up. Remember when, and someone could say it's like this, but this was typical. Summers for video games were usually a very quiet time. Everything, you had the spring fever. Summers would be quiet. Like, remember E3? That would be kind of the preview for what the fall would be in the next year, and fall would pick up at this point. Summer was usually a dead period. But there always, for a while there in the summer, there'd be like kind of one sleeper hit. I remember distinctly the very first Dead Rising came out late one summer, and that became a very much, oh my gosh, if you played this game, it came out late summer. It's a great game. This was another that came out in the summer of 2000. I want to say summer 2005, but that's when I played. It was summer 2005. That would be The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Oh, that was a good one. Now using cars as boxing gloves.
Yes, exactly. Like this took the idea of hulking out as a top down, overview at this point, and you like when it says ultimate destruction, you get pretty much can destroy everything there. You had what made it interesting is like you had writers like Paul Jenkins, writing it. Radical remedied this by cleverly using a character from the Hulk's world, Doc Samson, hypnotically plant suggestion into the Hulk's mind that you could have the best of both worlds, a Hulk game where the player can feel like it's what it's like to be the killer, at the same time suspending their disbelief that a more or less mindless creature would be tracking down components of a machine and returning them to hidden base for operations. It was a brawler, very solid, a lot of fun, and this top-down kind of view of just basically the main missions featuring the ultimate destruction are not unlike the other games. Go somewhere, collect something, destroy something, or escort a character. But I'm giving a lot of credit to the creative missions that had Hulk hilarious disguising himself under a truck. legs peeking out like a cartoon character as he covertly infiltrates the base. A lot of elements that make this game great. The voice work, the amount of stuff that you can do in large open environments, and above all else, what makes it fantastic, you actually feel like the Hulk. You get to leap. Your attacks are large, whether it's simply punching or performing a devastating attack, or something as simple as controlling the vibrating into tune with your footsteps. Literally what it is. Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction. So that is definitely a game I have very fond memories playing that summer.
Yeah. I remember that game. That game was a fun beat 'em up, and that was still when Blockbuster was around. So I remember renting that game and just having just some smashing fun.
Yep. So, all right, honorable mentions. What do you got? Because I've got one.
All right. So I've got one, and again, Mr. Travis Hines has one. So I will start off with his because I was also mentioned in the chat, and that is Spider-Man Venom Maximum Carnage.
Yep, that's
Because
my honorable mention too. That's my honorable
also
mention
mentioned
as well.
it. It was a game that he enjoyed. He remembers the red cartridge and the frustration with that game. I also
remember that red cartridge.
It was a great game, being able to play as Spider-Man, as Venom, and I remember getting owned again. This was another Blockbuster game for us. We kept having to go back because I could not beat that game, and the frustration. And every week is like, no, we've got to rent this again.
Six-armed doppelganger. Remember him?
Being mad, there was a couple of times I had to take a break from the game because it was such a popular game that someone was already waiting on it, or they didn't have it available for re-rent, and I just kept having to wait, and I was so mad. But yeah, that's Mr. Hines's, and again,
that is mine too. Again, you get to play both characters, Spider-Man and Venom. Both characters basically play kind of the same way, but they each have their own kind of unique feel. It follows, for the most part, the main idea of the storyline of Maximum Carnage. You're all going against Carnage at that point, and the game splits up into two. It also aids replay incentive to go through the game multiple times to see the branching path, search for a hidden bonus room, and get more comfortable with each of the protagonists, saying, back in the day when there was no updates, God, I never beat that game. Thrash. Oh yeah, it was definitely. But I will say this: any discussion about this game cannot exclude the memorable soundtrack by Green Jelly. The second you boot up that game and you met with Carnage Rules song from the band, you know you're in for cheer. I love that song. That's how I introduced to Green Jelly, and man, some hard rock at that point. But man, Carnage Rules. I lived that game soundtrack for a while. And this is something sorely missing from the sequel that was released later that year with separation anxiety, and when the themes from Maximum Carnage end up showing in the game, it makes you miss them. One thing sorely missing from this game is the ability to play with a friend.
yes,
that would have taken it to a whole new level, and you couldn't.
Yeah, and it's not like that was unheard of in the time of the Genesis, and because you had Sonic with Sonic and Tails, you had 2-player options on a lot of games that worked in tandem like that. So yeah, that was a missed opportunity, but man, that was just such a fun game. And like you said, the soundtrack, everything about it, I remember, again, just looking at the box art for that, and you had Carnage jumping at you, and I was just like, yeah, I need this in my life.
Yep. So, but yeah, all right. So that was my honorable mention, Mr. Hines. What is yours?
Okay, so mine is back to Spider-Man. It is going to be Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions.
Okay.
This took 4 different Spider-Men, and you had to play each version of the Spider-Man. So it wasn't one of these games where, okay, well, I can pick, I want to just do the entire run through as regular Spider-Man. Or I want to do the entire run through as Spider-Man 2099, who was like lightning fast, or I wouldn't do it all as Spider-Man Noir. His stages were all the stealth, the sneaking around. Then you had the Ultimate Spider-Man that was just like a faster, more lightning quick version of the regular Spider-Man. It was broken up to where you had to go between each one's different versions in order to get these tablet pieces back in order to save reality. It mentions and it has Madam Web in it, but not the Madam Web that we are accustomed to from the silver screen. No, this is the more true Madam Web. Don't you fret, listeners.
Madame Web.
So yeah, this was just great. And also, as someone who is a huge fan of Neil Patrick Harris, him voicing Spider-Man was just fun for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I do remember playing that game because again, I'm a Miguel Spider 2099 fan. I do love the Spider-Man Noir aspect that they bring into it. It was a cool way to bring kind of the Spider-Verse into a game format.
Yes, this is the Spider-Verse before the Spider-Verse. So if you are a fan of the Spider-Verse movies, then give this a try if you can find it somewhere.
Yep. So, all right. But so yeah, that again, it's a fun topic. It's an evergreen topic. I think we got a good representation. Like we said, we both said if you had missed it at that point, if you're watching live, like the Spider-Man 1 and 2 on PlayStation, that's just a given for both of us. It's we've talked about it at different points during the show. Even Brent's talked about it for the first one. He bought a darn PlayStation for that game.
That is why I bought my PS4. I didn't get the Spider-Man edition that he got, but when they announced that game, I went out the very next week and I bought a PS4 just so that I could have that game. I was like, oh, it's locked to this? Well, now I skipped the PS3, so I had the PS2. It was fun. Skipped that because I was always an Xbox guy. I had every version of the Xbox. But when they announced that, I was like, well, guess I'm jumping back into the PlayStation. And I went and I bought that just so I could play that game.
Yeah. So, but I hope you enjoyed the topic. Filled the topic, and hey, we're almost to where we would be on a normal show. So we're gonna take our final ad break for the evening. So as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back. So we got a couple of questions at this point. So I'll let you take those, David, as I get ready for Fact or Fictions.
Okay, so first up from Anthony Dorsey, what are your hopes and expectations for Marvel live action shows post the Multiverse saga? That one is kind of a loaded question because I will have to see exactly where they go coming as they're winding down the end of this multiverse. So as they wind down the end of Doomsday and everything else, see exactly what they set up from that. I would love to see more character specific stuff. Again, let's build up some of these characters because not everyone needs a movie. So having these opportunities to give these characters some shine on a smaller screen, and you could even do some of your team ups in this. If it's not a big, I'm bringing together 6-7 people like an Avengers, then this would be a good way to give some other characters some shine or continue stories from people that we meet in either Doomsday or Secret War.
Yeah, it's what I want to see is, quality over quantity. And once we get done with Wonder Man at this point, I think the show we know we are getting is Vision Quest. What else do we know that we're getting? Not animation.
I was about to say Wonder Man and Vision Quest are it that I know of for sure. Yeah.
I am fine if they want to do with the shows. And again, the homework problem is always going to be the homework problem. But I would like, if they're going to do a show, no more than 2. But I would like, if they're going to do 2, I would do something of an established character that we've known and give a shot to, maybe not necessarily something new and not tested, but something that we haven't seen, and maybe a mini series. I don't think everything has to be 8 to 10 episodes. I think that they could do a mini series and keep kind of 4 episodes, but I want them to get ready to start producing these shows like they should be saying with like a TV show, and building this out and having showrunners and show bibles, things like that. I'm fine if they just do one show a year, on Disney, as long if that means that we get a better quality of what's on Disney Plus, then yes, it is worth it versus having two shows of meh quality because they're spread too thin, even just with two shows. So no more than two shows. I'd be fine with one show, you know.
Yeah.
But anything more than that, it's kind of hard for me to say just to see where we're at the end.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier had a sweet spot with 6 episodes. I think that that's a good range, because anything more than that, I do start to kind of, unless it's a show that's made specifically for that, like with Daredevil, I'm okay with that. But anything other than that, once you start getting too far into too many episodes, I feel like you lose a lot with the character. It starts dragging on. It gets a little bit too much. So keeping it somewhere in that 4 to 6 range is a good sweet spot.
Yep. So, all right.
All right. Fanboy Clay, and this one came via Instagram. So if you are on Instagram, you can follow the network at geek_ultimate_alliance on Instagram, and then the various shows have their Instagrams. But so this was his question: how do you feel about Yuri Lowenthal claiming that Spider-Man's greatest villain is Uncle Ben due to the amount of weight? With great power comes great responsibility weighs on Peter.
I think that's some of that, I'm not saying you're saying that, Clay. I know Yuri was saying it's an interesting take, but I also think it's very clickbaity in a way that, I'm not saying he's wrong, but what I'll say about humans and human nature is, like, to your point, the amount of weight. But saying with great power comes great responsibility, but that kind of ignores why that has weight, and that Peter holds himself responsible for Uncle Ben's death. If we're going with the comic books, that, he let the burger get away, that was robbing the wrestling thing, and if he didn't let him get away, in some way, Uncle Ben might have still be alive or might have lived out of things. So I don't think Yuri's saying that that's the statement alone is that, and again, I've seen what he says, but I don't, clips are clips with there. I don't know if he puts into the idea of like the whole context of that. So I don't think, I disagree with it if it's just the weight of that, because the weight of that statement matters because it's Peter who holds himself responsible for his death. That's why that quote means even more, is because of what Peter blames himself for and continues to blame himself for. So,
yeah, I think that the whole great power comes great responsibility. Is it something that drives him? Yes. Is it something that is still kind of a rallying cry for why he does what he does? Yes. But I think that the inherent nature of him would be this is who he would be. Peter does not strike me as a run from the problem type person, even if Uncle Ben has not said that. Yes, I do think that is his motivation, to not have what happened to him happen to anyone else, not feel that pain. Same thing we have with, Batman at times with, I don't want another kid to, the whole, I think was in a Justice League, or no, it's in Young Justice when he's saying that, he took in Robin because he doesn't want him to become just like him type deal. Like, it may be a driving force behind why he does it, but I don't think that it handcuffs him to have to step up to the plate and have to fight these villains. I think that is just who he is and what he has chosen to do with his powers.
yeah, but an interesting idea. So, but yeah, that's thanks for raising that. An interesting idea that he puts out.
Yep. Next one is from All in the Game, and he set this one in the chat earlier. This is the one that we saved. Overall thoughts on this year's movies in terms of quality and box office and possible implications going forward.
Overall thoughts on this year's movies in terms of quality of box office and possible implication going forward. Well, I think the Captain America actually quote unquote underperforms, but I say it also did better than what people ended up expecting because again it got over 500,000, right?
Yeah.
They weren't even predicting that. While Thunderbolts underperformed, critically acclaimed, but I agree with Kevin Feige. You have a bunch of characters that people aren't as familiar with, but they are now. And I think that Fantastic Four also had a similar problem, but in a different way. That Fantastic Four are not yes, they're Marvel's first family, but there hasn't been a quality Fantastic Four movie really there, like in the sense of a peak level. But I have more higher hopes, as I believe that Kevin Feige says, that now that people know who they are, know what they are, and respond to it. But when it comes down to it, I've said it so many different times, like it comes down to choice. And when you put out three superhero movies in a summer where you've got a whole bunch of other things, including the distinguished competition with Superman at that point, you cannot compare Superman and Fantastic Four. They're completely two different levels. And I'll say right now, Superman outranks Fantastic Four twice on Sunday. It's not a fair comparison in that sense. Could it eventually rise to a better comparison with what they are involved with Doomsday and Secret War, so that when a sequel does come out, because I do believe there's going to be a sequel to Fantastic Four, yes, it could be bigger just because of the popularity and the recognition of those characters is much there. But I think the implications going forward is that less is more, and I could easily see them again. We don't have to have three movies a year. I think you could have a movie at the beginning of the at first half of the year, movie in the second half of the year, and you're good. I think they're still going to lean in harder towards characters that have either a proven track record or something that audiences really gravitated towards. Do we see $1 billion movie? There's a strong possibility if either Avengers movie's doing it. If anything's left outside of that, maybe in Spider-Man. But box office, I think they have to find a way to not. Again, like I said, you have to make people want to come to these movies and have to see it. Yes, people can say Superman, quote unquote, didn't beat certain things. I'm not here for that debate, but the fact that Superman itself, being the character he is, but the story behind it, and people kept on coming back, you have to give people a reason to want to say you have to see this in theaters. But even then, with the age of streaming, that desire to see it in theaters is not as strong. Just to see a movie, especially with so many choices, how much expensive it is. So it's going to be different. So again, pull back on the amount, focus on the quality of the scripts you're putting out there, and make people see that you have to see this in theaters. You get that thing, that's where it'll change it at that point. But I do not think any of these movies this year said to me, I would be very honest with you, again, as a Marvel fan, as a superhero fan, none of these movies I said you had to see in theaters. Because in my opinion, you didn't. You could have waited and been fine. None of these it was a lot of great moments, a lot of cool things to see in a theater, but none of them you had to see in a theater.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I was talking to someone earlier and they were asking when the next Marvel thing is, and I tell them, we have a ways away, and they're like, man, that's a long way to go. People got burnt out, and they're understanding that. And I think, yeah, 2 movies a year and spread them out, that's more of a sweet spot, because as a casual viewer, if you're telling me I need to see something, but I needed to see these 2 shows that were 6 to 12 episodes apiece that came out earlier this year in order to digest this movie, and I have to see this in order to then watch the other 2 shows that come out, because that's leading to the big event at Christmas time, I may say, you know what? I'm just not going to watch any of it. That's too much. I don't have the time, energy, or patience for that. Now, when it comes to the box office
I
that we
don't have time for your.
when it comes to the box office that we just saw, I think that Superman is always going to be an attraction, especially a new Superman. And so, it's going to draw in the numbers that it's going to draw in. It's going to be something that you have to see. But again, none of these were you need to see this in theaters. This is made to be a spectacle for the big screen. I watched Captain America twice in theaters, once, for my own viewing, second time for the show. And then the next time I watched it was on a plane flying home from Mexico on my iPad. And that was someone else's first viewing seeing it. And we're sitting on the plane and we're watching this. And they didn't lose anything by seeing it on an iPad. It was, that's just how they consumed it. And that was okay. And same thing with Superman. I watched it. I watched it a couple of times in theaters, but seeing it on television does not. I don't lose anything by that. There's no big grand spectacle. There's no the portal scene. Yes, seeing the portal scene for the first time, that was a spectacle that I had to see.
That's a spectacle that was enhanced because of the audience too.
Yes. There isn't anything that's driving the you have to see this in theaters market. And as streaming is becoming more and more progressive, it's less and less time that you're waiting for things to come to streaming as well. Like you and I know, hey, if I don't catch this now, in 3 months it's going to be available for purchase, and then 1 month after that it's going to be available for free streaming on, I say free, but whatever service you have at no additional cost. So for that lapsed fan or for that casual, why would I spend $20? Or if I don't want to go out to a busy theater on a Friday, Saturday night, why would I when I know in 4 months it's going to be on something that I already have a subscription to?
Yep. But interesting question. Thank you for that.
All right. And as we have from Jim Scruggs, who would be the
literally just came. I happened to look at Twitter and saw a direct message. So Jim, I even messaged you. You just made it in time.
All right. Who would be the most competitive at fantasy football in the MCU? I have two answers to this.
I will go with Gambit.
I would. Gambit is one of my answers. Yes, Gambit is one of my answers. The other would be Tony Stark.
Yeah, I could see that. Yep.
Between the I have to be the smartest man, the gambling, and everything else, he is going to be the guy with the huge board. He is going to program a version of Friday just to help him with the fantasy football. So Gambit's going to be the smooth talker who is going to be in like 7 leagues, but Iron Man is going to be the one who is taking this way too seriously.
Yeah, both solid choices. So
yeah.
But all right, well, thank you all for those questions at that point. So let us go to fact or fiction. All right, so from a couple weeks ago, this is from Mr. Hines. So Eddie Brock will appear in the next season of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. 77% said fact, 23% said fiction. Number 2, I will say fact on that. Number 2, the Avengers will appear in the next season of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. 85% said fact, 15% said fiction. Yeah, I mean, they do exist in there, so I would say yes, that's a strong yes for me. 3, Thor will die in one of the 2 Avengers films. 60% said fact, 40% said fiction.
You got to get that crying scene.
Yeah, you got to get the crying scene, but, I mean, we've lost the other 2. It would stand to think the last of the Trinity fall. So, yeah, I'd say probably a fact. The number 4, War Machine will die in one of the next 2 Avengers films. 79% said fact, 21% said fiction. I'm a fiction on that one. I'll be a contrarian on that one. I think somehow he's going to survive.
He's got to survive so he can get his own movie.
Yeah, is that a thing? All right, so me this week. My first one is definitely low hanging fruit, but I'll take it. All right, let me scroll down. I'm very proud. I'm very proud of my last one though. So first one, we will see the Marvel Zombies in Avengers: Secret Wars. So we will see live action Marvel Zombies in Avengers: Secret Wars.
I am going to go fact on that one. I don't think it will be a horde, but I do think we might get one or two. We'll get that nod.
Yeah, I'm a fact as well. I think it's too good of an opportunity if they're especially leaning on Battle World as what's going to happen. So, all right. Number 2, both X-Men 97 and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man will only have 3 seasons. So we are getting ready some point next year to more than likely have X-Men 97. No confirmation yet if Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man will come out next year. We do know we're getting a season 2 of that. We do know we're getting a season 3 of X-Men 97, but that will be the final season for X-Men 97. And Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man will also only get 3 seasons.
I will say fact on that. I think that as they build up to the live action X-Men, they will want to pull away from having the duality of X-Men 97 as well. I also think that it's one of those situations where, okay, if we end its run, then you have your people who love it, but it's less of something that we're continuing to talk about, less something that people continue to talk about, less people have to Google and see what all occurred with the makings of season 1. As far as Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, as much as I love the premise of the show and I love where it went with season 1, I don't see how they can do that for prolonged seasons. So I think 3 seasons would be a good wrap up.
Yep. So I'm a fact as well. All right, my last one. I'm particularly proud of this one because sometimes I get 2 and I was just like, man, I got to think of really hard. So here it is. There will be a major defection from one of the Avengers teams who will join Doctor Doom's side in either Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars. So I say either Avengers team, there will be a defection. Because I know they're talking about there's going to be a Loki team, but that's not necessarily confirmed. We at least can say there will be 2 Avengers teams in this movie. I say there's going to be a major defection in one of those 2 movies of someone who's going to be sees what Doom is doing and wants to be a part of the quote unquote winning side. They'll be tempted and they will betray their team.
I will go fact on this. I think that
No, just think about it. Think about it. I wouldn't say who.
I'm not going to say who because without fully knowing what Cap's team looks like, it's hard to say for sure, but I do think that just the charisma of Doom and things, I could see him pulling somebody over with his science and his logic.
Yep, and again, just like Mephisto can tempt Riri, Doom is, I think, even bigger. Like you said, Charmer and the snake with the apple in the Garden of Eden. I'm a fact as well. I think it would make for a very kind of cool kind of storyline, especially if it's from someone that we would not suspect.
Yeah.
And just rock that team's world and just say, oh my gosh, So, but all right, I will post those Sunday afternoon. Let your voices be heard. We've had some time off for Comic Book Club. Well, guess what? It's time to bring it back. I think the time off, and we are going to starting next week. And I know FIFA Jack Gaming has been with us as one of our ride and dies for Comic Book Club. I'm sure a lot of you others are, but we are going to start a new one. This will be 6 issues. We've talked about it. I've said certain things are not as good as what this one was. So we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're gonna put we're gonna put the feet to the pavement. Our next comic book club will be looking at Spider-Man Life Story by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley. This is the one that started it. You know, there hasn't been a continuation after Fantastic Four, but this is still the pinnacle comparison of the two. And I just need something to get the frustration out of my mouth for what Fantastic Four Life Story was.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I have fond memories of certain issues of this, and as we go back and reread them, I'm hoping that those fond memories still hold up.
Yep. So in 1962, Amazing Fantasy number 15, 15-year-old Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive Spider-Man, became the Amazing Spider-Man. 57 years have passed in the real world since that event. So what would have happened if the same amount of time passed for Peter? To celebrate Marvel's 80th anniversary, Chip Zdarsky and Spider-Man legend Mark Bagley unite to spin a Spider-Man tale, telling an entire history of Spider-Man from beginning to end, set against the key events of the decades from which he lived, from Vietnam War to Secret Wars to Civil War, all the way to what might be the 72-year-old Spider-Man's final mission. Prepare to watch Peter Parker age through 57 years of groundbreaking history and find out what happens to him and those he most love. So... Yep, Fifth Jack, very excited. I own that book in both hardcover and omnibus form. I am stoked to read it finally. Yes, I own it in the now out of print oversized hardcover that does include that additional issue, the annual that was added later on at that point. And I think that annual is critical to the overarching story of it. And you cannot say that many times about annuals, but man, Chip Zdarsky is definitely on one of those that always it's always an interesting read with what he does. But man, he weaves probably one of my favorite Spider-Man stories of all time, and every time I do read it, I do get teared up at the end because he weaves a very great tale. So I'm glad you're excited, Fifth Jack Gaming. I'm glad that hopefully some of you and maybe all of you are excited. If you're not ready for if you're going to be reading it for the first time, like Fifth Jack, or it's going to be reading it for David and I many times over, it's one that I don't mind bringing to Comic Book Club in because I look forward to it. So, but yeah, we will start that next week with issue number 1. So check that out, and however you read it, physically, Marvel Unlimited, whatever you got, read it there. But all right, we made it a full show, pretty much at the same length that we do, and that's only on 2 things. So yeah, we know how to bring it there. So if you enjoyed that, but as always, want to thank our official sponsor, again, panelbrowncomics.com. There we go. I'm getting it eventually. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order, or use MGUA SIT to get for 5% off when you order 4 or more books together. David, tell people how they can follow you.
You can follow me on all socials at The Phantom. You can follow me here on the Geekverse Network as part of our wrestling show, The Gimmick. We just had a show last weekend, and we will be coming back very soon with another episode featuring our WWE 2K25 My GM mode, and we have some incredible wrestling shows coming up, WrestlePalooza, and some other things that we will be reviewing coming up soon. So yeah, we've got a lot of wrestling coming up, and I'm excited for all of that.
Yeah, I'm excited because again, I watch a little bit of clips, and then you guys fill in the blanks on those. But yeah, you can follow me at Chris Balga. Just a quick announcement for those of you that did follow me on the Brave and the Boys for the Organic Price Books / Panelbound Comics Weekly Buyer's Guide. Jake and I, as promised, we are coming back. We will be, as we talked about, we are rebranding that show to be a monthly pre-order look at the final order cutoffs of what the issues are going to be. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming in the next few weeks. So check that out. But otherwise, you can follow me on all the socials at Chris Balga. You can also, as we say, follow the podcast on Twitter at Marvel 8 Podcast and me personally at Chris Balga. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions. DMs are open across the board. Continue to rate the Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, David, post-credits discussion. What you got for us tonight?
Okay, so recently Marvel and Disney did another one of their 3D light shows. This was at Walt Disney Studios Marketing Expo in Shanghai, and it was solely centered around Avengers Doomsday, where they had some cool things. You got the X-Men logo and some other logos. You had the Avengers logo. You had Black Panther, stuff like that. But they also had an interesting light show where they showed a scene of Doctor Doom killing Thanos, a la Secret Wars #8.
I just literally saw that image right before the show, so I know what you're talking about.
So, with that being said, we don't know if this is going to be a part of Avengers Doomsday the movie, or if this was just something that they were doing again to get that hype going. But with that being said, what character fight or interaction do you most want to see in Avengers Doomsday?
In Avengers Doomsday, I mean, man, that's such an character fighter interaction. I'm looking forward just to, in general, the Fox era of X-Men fighting the Avengers, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to see Doom just tear the crud out of these heroes, and when that moment comes to realization that Doom is not who he put himself up to be, because what's the fact of not enticing them to lull them into a false sense of security and then just whipping butt? But I would say the interaction in the fight of it's the Fox era of X-Men versus the MCU. I mean, I know it's low-hanging fruit, but it's the most. I think it's one of the most intriguing ideas.
Yeah, I'm completely down for that. While I'm not a fan of the damsel in distress trope, and I don't want that to be the catalyst for this, I do want a 3-way interaction between Doom, Namor, and Reed Richards.
Want that thruple?
I want that interaction. Now, if Sue just happens to be there, then okay, she doesn't need to be. But I do want that 3-way interaction between all Sue's men. So
all of Sue's men. Yeah, I mean, it would be very interesting. But yeah, no, I love seeing that possible image. I hope we do get it. I hope it's not some of that concept art that's just going to be there and just like, well, that was an idea, but it never happened. It's an iconic moment from the series, so I'm hoping we do get it.
Yeah.
I'll take it with that moment. Like you said, Thanos versus Doom. It's going to be a very quick if they do have it. But all right. Well, we will see. Hopefully, Marvel wakes up from their slumber and gives us some juicy news to break down and things like that. But we look forward to talking to you next week, and I hope you have a good weekend. And we will see you real soon. Bye bye.
See ya.